Hello, my name is the Cheerbrarian, also known as Ashlie Daigle, and my favorite thing is books.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. Here's the thing. I have been missing good Twitter hardcore since Elon Musk bought it. And Threads has finally given me a moment of serendipity that's making me say, maybe there's a replacement. And that is today's guest. Today's guest is the host of Advice from the Cheerbrarian herself, Ashlie Daigle. Ashlie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful, we're both in Chicago, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I'm in the suburbs. I'm in Schaumburg.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, then we're both in Chicagoland.
Yeah. Don't call it Chicago. I'm not in Chicago.
I'm in Chicago. It's a beautiful day outside.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting close to peak, the color on the leaves this year, because it's been such a slow fall, is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, they're pretty banging. I've got a friend who's down in Alabama and she loves changing leaves. And of course they get none. So she's basically subscribed to my leaf service. So every day I'll be like, here's a picture of a tree. So she's into that. So it's great.
Nice. So Ashlie, we were talking before that we met on Threads, because the Threads algorithm is impossible to understand. So I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you were asking for podcasts to go on, or I don't even remember.
Don't. I'd have to go look at it. No idea.
Yeah. But tell me about your podcast, Advice from the Cheerbrarian.
Yeah, it's a new baby podcast. I started last February. And so my tagline is pep talks and book recs in your ear holes from your new well-read best friend. And the fact that you smiled at ear holes says perhaps it's for you. That's a good tell of so that's me being a little funny. And so I love to read and I love to give people advice. And my entire life, I share knowledge with people and I go, unsolicited advice from Ashlie, but blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this podcast is a way for me to share what I've learned about personal development and wellness and just how to live a better life, and also recommend books to read that tie in with whatever the topic is, the topic du jour, as it were. Mostly solo, but I have what I call rotating co-hosts.
Yeah.
So I bring in people and that way I get to give the advice live. We can kind of riff on each other. And I've done a couple of interview styles that have been fun, that I'd be interested to do more, but I'm having fun with it.
Nice. And are you, in your professional life, a cheerleader or a librarian?
Fun fact, great question. Answer to both of those things is no, I am not. But in my first episode, I sort of detail why I came about it. And so I like to say on a scale of 1 to 10 of extrovert, I'm a 22. I am a positive, peppy, cheerful person. I love to bring positivity. So that's where the cheer part came from. And then I have always been a book enthusiast and still very bitter about not getting picked to be a junior librarian in 4th grade by Miss Peggy Falgout, not to put her on blast, but so this is the way of me sort of living out my librarian dream of recommending books to people and things like that.
Great. Well, I mean, I had to ask. It was required.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you did. I don't want to be and when meeting people in the wild, oh, are you a librarian? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I want you to say, no, I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And see what people do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're just that, just a cheerleader.
I'm just a cheerleader.
I would say I'm an amateur both. I'm an amateur cheerleader and that I'm full of cheer and I literally will hop up and down and cheer for people, and an amateur librarian because I will not shut up about telling people what they should be reading.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a genre? Well, gosh, I think we might just get into your favorite thing early. Because my next question, I feel is related to your favorite thing.
Sure. Okay.
So, Ashlie, what are we here to talk about today?
Well, this is going to come as a great surprise, so I'm glad you're sitting down. We're here to talk about books. And for those of you listening, I need you to know I'm wearing a shirt that says Book Nerd. and I'm drinking from my banned books mug. And I was going to put on book earrings, but I was like, well, I have the over-ear headphones. So I came prepared,
I
ready
love
to
it.
play, taking it seriously.
And the book nerd shirt, it's rainbow, and it's scratching it's sort of a reading rainbow-esque.
Yeah.
Like
a little bit.
That's the theme song I get in my head when I look at your shirt.
Oh gosh, Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton. What a national treasure.
Truly.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That would be another podcast, just a tribute to LeVar Burton.
Right.
You know? I got to meet him and thank him for both Star Trek and Reading Rainbow, and it was highlight of my day, for sure.
Was it at a Comic-Con or was it like random, or how did you get to meet him?
It was at a con. I went to a con purposefully to meet as many TNG Star Trek people as I could.
Nice.
That'll be the next episode. We can talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, I love it. I think I've only had one Star Trek episode so far, so there's so room for so much more.
Yeah, I can wear I have a jumpsuit, Star Trek jumpsuit. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done. Mm-hmm. So what I was going to ask was, how do you pick the genre of the week for your podcast?
Oh, so I don't have a genre of the week for the podcast, actually. So it really just goes with the topic at hand. And so sometimes it's really linear. So I did an episode about your brain as a dirty, dirty liar, learning about like how to not internalize and be weighted down by like the negative self-talk. Mm-hmm. And so I had a book, it's over here, called My Stroke of Insight. And it's a nonfiction book by Dr. Joe Bolte-Taylor, who wrote about the process of having a stroke. And she is a brain scientist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, her. And so the book is obviously more in depth with the same topic. And so she talked about how she had to relearn things and actually was able to sort of teach herself to be almost a different person because of like the malleability of the brain. So that's a really like linear one, right?
Yeah.
I did an episode called You're Rejected, Now What? Where I talked about getting laid off from a job.
Yeah.
And I talked about, you know, the two phases of that is like you kind of have to wallow for a bit. And then you have to move past it. And so the wallowing book, I picked like a cozy book called, what's it called? By Meg Schaffer, The Wishing Game. Mm-hmm. And then for the like, when you're ready to move on, I picked a book called The Strength Finder, which is like a personality assessment, which is like, you know, a helpful tool for kind of understanding your strengths and things. So it's not really genre based. It's really tied into the topic. And like I said, it can be really obviously brain book brains, or it can be just like, here's a character who's good at whatever I talked about.
Right.
You know? It's all over the place.
So where does your topic of the week come from?
From my noodle. So I do some, I've got some series going. So right now I'm in the middle of The Power of Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's like things to say yes to improve your life. So I talked about, I just did, what was it? Oh, say yes to going outside your comfort zone and things like that. So it's really like, I kind of look at the things that I'm passionate about and what I want to share with people. And then that's where I go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 32 episodes in.
Yeah.
That's great. Most people don't make it past 5.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just going to pat myself on the back. Right there.
The statistics of like, if you've gone over 5 or 20 episodes is because it's, like we were talking about, it's a lot of work, especially when you're the host, you're the editor, you're the producer, you're doing the social media.
Oh, God.
And I did social media professionally for 15 years. It is like pulling teeth to get me to post on Instagram one little image for an episode anymore.
Yeah.
And then I upped it and I was like, I'm going to start doing triptychs because it's 2014. Nobody does 3 across images anymore, but I decided 2 episodes ago to start doing that.
There you go.
And it's too hard and I don't do
it. It's tough. It's tough for
it's
sure.
Tough.
For sure. But the books motivate me to keep going. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to hear your origin story.
Oh.
When did you become a book person? Do you remember the moment, the book that either made you, my assumption is you are a voracious reader.
Correct. And the usage of the word voracious is really important.
Okay. So do you remember a moment in elementary or middle school, like the book that you were like, click, I'm a reader now. This is my thing.
That's interesting.
Or it could have been in adulthood.
Sure. So when I was younger, I was going through my library before we got on this, and I found some books that I know, some series that really captured my heart. I was real into Laura Ingalls Wilder, The Little House on the Prairie. I remember loving Anne of Green Gables.
Yep.
I loved, what else did I get? Oh, the Cat Who mystery series by Lillian Jackson Braun.
Did
right?
we, like, it's possible we shared a library growing up.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
My library was down in Thibodaux, Louisiana, so I don't think we did.
Okay.
I'm here now, but I live in Louisiana. I was from Louisiana. But anyway, so I remember loving those books. But the one memory that sticks out to me where I knew that, like, me being a reader was distinctive sort of to me and my identity was I remember being in high school English class. I think I was like a sophomore or junior. And the teacher was talking about whatever book, you know, we're having class. And she's like, has anybody read X? And I don't remember what the book was. But when I tell you, like, 25 heads slowly turned to look at me because the class knew if anybody has read this, it would be Ashlie. And I was like, and I don't think I had. And I sat there and I was like, I shook my head no, like almost like gladiatorially, like just like no. And then they went on, and I was like, oh, like that is a defining moment for me. Like I am this, and I am so this that people identify me because I used to walk around. I remember walking around during lunch with Stephen King's It, just pacing and reading, like just carrying books with me. So it's been a significant part of my identity for a really long time because I'm a little bit older than high school.
Right.
Just a touch.
I am too. I believe this year will be my 30th high school reunion.
I
coming up on 30.
Math. I think I'm getting, if I just sort of celebrated my 20th college, then I'm getting close.
Yeah.
Getting close. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have I'm a twin, and my sister was a reader before I was.
Okay.
A reader. We both learned how to read.
Sure.
But I have the distinct memory, and I've told this on the podcast before, and I do not hold any ill will towards my twin sister for this, that I won in class a copy of Stuart Little.
Nice.
And she read it before me.
And
I was like, you will never read a book before me again.
Oh.
I just really remember, like, but it's because she read at that point. She was a more voracious reader than I was. I'm sure she read it in 2 days. It's not like she took it from me for a month.
Right.
Right? She read it so fast. But I do have a distinct memory of like, oh, well, no, I read too. I and wanting to like catch up to her.
Right. That's awesome.
But
you're not still mad about it. You've gotten completely over it.
I have so much closure. So much closure. And I'm so, it's not the only title I remember ever receiving at school at all.
No.
I
have a similar story where, like I said, huge reader. And I was in the same English class as my best friend present day. And what was the book? Friggin' Huck Finn. That's what it was. I read it. He did not, because he was doing whatever he was doing. And so I wrote a summary for him of what we were supposed to have read in Huck Finn. And we had a quiz. And he did better on me. And I will tell you, I will die mad about that. I have zero closure, and I'm very angry about it.
And you're still best friends.
But listen, he got me through honors physics. So like, we're cool. He paid his debt in another way. But as a reader, I'm still pretty peeved.
Yeah.
Still pretty mad.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, what it tells me is that you wrote a great summary.
I mean, yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
The best would be.
Yeah. Whatever. So do you have a process? So you said you give unsolicited advice, you give unsolicited book recommendations.
Yeah, I'm just here to tell people what to do, whether they like it or not, basically. Yeah,
I love it.
It's my vibe.
Talk to me about your book discovery now. Like, how do you find new books to read?
Yeah.
Versus how often are you going back to reread books from the past?
Yeah, I don't reread a lot because I don't know if you know about this, but there's like a lot of books, right?
There's so many books.
There's so many books. And so I would say books that I've reread, the book I've probably read the most is Orwell's 1984. So I'm a big dystopian, apocalyptic-y gal. And so that book has just been fundamental. But I don't reread a lot just because, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
So I get book recs from, I'm in a couple of reading communities. So I'm participating in this thing called Cannonball Read. which is a challenge to read either a full cannonball of books a year, which is 52, or you could do a half, or you could do a quarter. We have a WordPress where you have to write like summaries of what you read, so book reviews, as it were. And then it's also like a fundraiser for, I think it's cancer. I should know that better because I've been doing it for 7 years now, I think. But so that's a place where like people are sharing book recs. We've got like a Facebook page, so we're real chatty about that. You know, I participate in public library book clubs are the best. I've got a good one. And so I read whatever we've got coming up in that book club. And just, you know, friends, like I love Goodreads. Do you use Goodreads?
I have a Goodreads account. It comes and goes.
Here's why I love it. So if you use it enough to where you get like some friends in there, then you can easily see what other people you know think about books. And so, and I make shelves. I think I checked the other day because somebody prompted me to do this. I think I have like 75 shelves. Amazing. Because I do them by people's names. So like if you and I, you know, get to be buds and you start recommending books to me, I'd say recommended by Leah, because then it would, like, when I'm trying to think of something to read, I remember the stuff you like. Oh, let me see, what was that book she said? Yeah. So I find it really helpful to connect if somebody recommends a book to me, remembering who it was, because it's like, well, am I in the mood for something Casey recommended or Mindy recommended? Because we have similar book flavors. So, you know, just word of mouth, I find, is really helpful to do that. But I want to give a plug for reading multiple books at the same time.
Tell me more, because that is nearly impossible for me to imagine.
Here's the thing. So I think I have like this. Usually I have 3. I think I probably have 5 going right now, which is too many. Things have gotten out of control. I know your face is very.
Well, I'm just like, are they all paperback? Is it like a business book, a novel? Like, do you have 5 novels going at once, or do you have 5 books?
I have 2 novels. So I've got one book that's for the public library that's fiction, which is Heaven and Earth Grocery Store. I've got one book I'm about to start that I'm doing a read along with some friends called Beartown by Frederick Bachman, who wrote A Man Called Ove, which is a movie and things. And then I've got The Power of Fun by Catherine Price, which is like learning how to have fun as an adult, which is self-helpy. I'm reading Meditation for Skeptics by Dan Harris, which is what I'm going to do. He's so great. That's one of my next podcast episodes is Say Yes to Meditation. Yeah. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Oh, Design Your Life, which I need to do, which is like a helpful process to figure out like career stuff, but and then I have a book called Thinking Fast and Slow that my husband picked up for me at the library that I've been reading since August 2023.
That you've been reading slowly.
I've been reading it slow and slower. Yeah. And it's very meaty, and it's about like psychology and economics, and it makes me very tired. But here's why you should read multiple, not that many. Let's say 2. Read 2 books at a time. Okay. Because here's the thing. Like watching TV, right? Usually people don't have one show going at a time, right? You might have a couple different shows, and then you sit down and you go, well, today I'm in the mood for something funny, or today I'm in the mood for something serious. And like the statistics on how many adults read past like education that they have to are very bleak. Like people don't read, and that's fine if it's not your interest. But so often I hear, oh, I wish I read more. I wish I had time to read whatever. I think a big barrier to this is if you're reading one book at a time and it's a serious book and you're not in the mood for a serious book, well, you're just not going to read that day, and maybe the next day, and maybe the next day. But if you have, here's a serious book and here's like a silly fun book, well, then you're giving yourself options, just like with TV shows or anything else. So that's why I think, because everybody's you're a mood reader. So it's like, you know, you might not, there's a book that I might really like. I read a book for the library book club last month that was very good, that is very interesting, that was awful to pick up every single time, because it was about this woman in China and the 1400s. And I don't know if you know about the 1400s and China, but it wasn't great to be a woman lots of times in history. But 1400s, you had your foot binding. It was not good. Yeah. But I kept picking it up. Like I would go back and forth. If I was only reading that book, it would have been more of a slog. But it gave me options, you know. So that's my soapbox on why you should try to read just 2 books at a time.
So, more questions.
Great. Love it.
Are they Kindle? Are they physical books?
They are all physical books. I want to I have a Kindle. It's somewhere. I can't. I need, like, I'm that person who will go, not even a long weekend. I will go away for a weekend and bring 3 actual physical books.
Yeah.
Because I don't like reading on my phone, because I try to do less on my phone, and that's just gonna, the minute you pick up your phone, there's a 50-50 chance that you're gonna do the thing you want to do or the thing your phone wants you to do, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then do you have, so you're reading 3 to 5 books at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do the books have geography? Is there a bedroom book, a living room book, a car book?
Oh, love
or
that.
is it, they're kind of all 3 moving around the house with you, and when it's time to read, then you pick?
That's a great question. I love the concept of the geography. So I would say I'm trying to get in the habit of keeping one in, like, I have a chair I read in a certain room that, like, I leave a book in that chair, because then if I sit in that chair, usually with my phone in hand, because it's always there trying to get you to look at it, it's more likely I will read the book if it's physically next to me, right?
Yeah.
And then the room I'm in now, so I guess a little bit of geography, but then I might be in the chair with that book and say, like, oh, wait, I'm going to go get the other book. So it really kind of, and one of them I have the physical copy, but I also have audio. So I'm kind of going back and forth between those two. The Dan Harris one, because he's great.
Yeah. I read his first book, 10% Happier, 10%.
Correct. 10% Happier. That's his whole thing. Yeah.
I don't know that I finished it.
Yeah.
I got diagnosed with ADHD a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Which explains the level of reading I did into my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of dissociating.
Sure.
It's a way of regulation. It was also before I had Twitter on my phone. So I am in a battle with my phone, and I don't read as much as I used to. Once I was I feel like I was late to podcasts, but I've been listening to podcasts for 7 or 8 years. So not actually that late. Late for nerdy marketers, but not late for the general public.
Gotcha.
So podcasts really started taking, before podcasts, I wouldn't ever commute without a book.
Right.
Right. And the train, I was on the train for an hour, 2 hours a day. And then once I switched to podcasts, and then sometimes audiobooks, but not as much as I used to. And so I do find myself missing reading. And I think listening is equivalent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another soapbox I will get on.
Yeah.
It is. For sure.
But I am starting to think about, like, where do I need to put books? So I pick up books instead of my phone. Yeah.
I would say part of the trick is you have to also physically hide your phone. Also, there's a book for that. Also, I did a podcast episode, actually 2, and I guested on one that I think is coming out on somebody else's this week about phone usage. Because there's a book, I'm looking at it over here, by Catherine Price. So she wrote the book I mentioned I'm reading right now, The Power of Fun. She also wrote a book called How to Break Up with Your Phone. And it's really good. The first little chunk of it the first thing it did for me was it helped me release so much of the guilt I had about how much I spend time on my phone, because she details exactly why it's so hard to put it down. Like when you really internalize that there are not just people, but like hundreds of thousands of very well-educated engineers who have devoted all their time to make this thing to where you don't want to put it down. It's a slot machine. It's a tiny slot machine you carry with you that pings and gives you rewards. So once I sort of really took that in, it's like, I don't feel as bad about falling into it. I'm just like, you got me, engineers. You win this 30 minutes, But then she actually takes you through kind of a 30-day plan to, like, it's like a week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 that works to kind of change your relationship with your phone.
Oh, nice.
Which, I mean, I'm not like, and now I've done it and I'm perfect. Like, obviously not, but it's given me some cool tools. So, like, easy things, but hard to sort of maintain. So, like, my phone, I try to put my phone to bed at night around like 7:30. It's like, okay, and now my phone's going to go to bed. And so it's physically far away from me. So I'm much more likely now, because the books are closer to me. Right. And if I'm spending time with my family, I'm really engaged with that versus the phone that's in the chair. Yeah. But there's a book for everything. So books are great.
I can't blame it all on working in social media, but I can certainly blame some of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which was that it was my role at the agency I worked at for 7+ years was determining if a mass shooting was bad enough to stop doing public relations.
Oh,
gross.
Super fun. Yeah.
Gross. So like I told my teams the day of the Boston bombing at the Boston Marathon. Like I saw that come through on Twitter before it was on the news, and I sent out an alert and I was like, whatever you're doing today, stop. But that was that was like an important part of my job for so many years, was watching for these emergencies that were rightfully going to take over the news for the day.
Right.
So that we didn't act like assholes.
Right.
Continuing to do promotion during an emergency.
Well, and that rewires your brain in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like you change your relationship to the dopamine. You change sort of how heightened you feel like you need to be with the phone. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you're like, then you also say awful things like 2 people is in a mass shoot. Blah.
Blech.
It's gross. Yeah. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. I do internal communications work.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at work now, well, my last phone, this is the problem, is you get a new phone and it defaults to like everything being on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to go through and turn off all the notifications and work on getting it silenced again. Because I can't actually have it on Do Not Disturb all the time. Like I do need texts and I need phone calls to come through.
Sure.
But on my last phone, I had it set that as soon as it connected to my work Wi-Fi, all sound stopped.
Oh.
Because at work, I only need what's on my computer.
Right.
I don't need what's coming to my personal cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a friend who the nature of her job is like, she goes into work and like she has to leave her personal phone like in a box for the day. And I'm like, that sounds so nice.
Right.
And like I say that sounds so nice. There's nothing stopping me from doing that for myself.
Right.
And putting it in a box. And like I try to do variations on that sometimes, but
yeah,
it's tough. It's tough.
So phones are the enemy.
Correct.
Books are our friends.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is your like Mount Rushmore of books you think you recommend most often? When you are prescribing books to people, what do you think are the 4 or 5 that come up most often as a recommendation?
That is a great. I love prescribing, because that is what I'm doing. I'm like, take your book medicine, please. Okay, so I would say I generally try to never prescribe without some information, because I think I want to get the right book in front of the right people. So I usually like to ask, like, you know, what's the last book that you read that you enjoyed? Are there any genres you're looking to try? Are there any genres you're trying to avoid? But recent ones that are high up on my list, because usually I think my default is like, what books can I recommend that a person would fall in love with that's going to like lift their spirit? That's kind of like the baseline, right?
Yeah.
So the first series I would recommend is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osmond.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Okay. So it is a sort of, if you liked the show Murder, She Wrote, which I did, with Angela Lansbury as Jessica Fletcher in a small town that inexplicably had way too many murders in Cabot Cove. And so, you know, she was, you know, an older woman who was like living her best life doing all this stuff, and also a writer. So imagine 4 Angela Lansburys where you have 4 friends who are all together solving these murders, except they're also in England and they live in a retirement village. And so it's called the Thursday Murder Club because they literally meet in like the rec room on Thursdays, like right after like the puzzle group. This is real. And the characters in this book are so vibrant that I can't wait to go to London and meet them, because they are obviously very real people that I can go hang out with. And they're definitely like cozy mysteries. Yeah. But they're such full fun. The 4 characters, you have one who's like a retired MI6 agent.
Love it.
She means business. You have one who's sort of kind of a stereotype of like a doddering older woman, like a little bit out of touch. She's kind of the main person. You're in her head. She like does these journal entries at the end of the day, which are great. And then you've got a guy who used to be kind of like a blue collar brawler kind of guy. Yeah. And then you have a psychiatrist who have befriended each other. I don't think they didn't know each other until they moved in. So they've become this close unit, and they are very fun. they're funny, and they just like fill my heart with warmth. So if somebody's just like, what's something to, and there's 4 of them. So like, I think it's 4. Yeah. Cause at one point he's like, and then I'm going to be done writing them. And I'm like, excuse me, Richard Osman.
Yeah, no.
And he was like, okay, I'm gonna, not that I actually talked to Richard Osman,
right.
but he has written another book that I haven't read yet. And he said he's going to come back to it. And I'm like, you better, sir. Also, there's going to be a movie coming out, and it's going to have Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, and Ben Kingsley, and I can't remember the 4th one. And that's like the main 4 people.
Here's the thing. You got to make those 4 movies fast.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
Let's go back to back. Knock them out.
Get it together. But yeah, so cozy, fun, great characters, easy to read. And there's something like, to me, I like reading also because, you know, everybody loves a to-do list. Everybody loves like a check mark. And like finishing a book is great. And if you read the series, you've read 4 books. And like, isn't that cool? And I don't think you necessarily have to read them back to back. Like you could kind of read one and wait a bit. It's not like they build into each other that way. They're individual stories. But so that's one. Another one of my favorite authors, Tana French. She is I thought she was Irish because she writes her series. It's called The Dublin Murder Squad. She's actually, I think she's like American who has like Irish family. But anyway, so the thing about this series that's really fascinating, this is like more thriller murder, not cozy. Like, yikes. So if you like Law and Order SVU, go check these out. What's fun about the series is that each book, so the first book is called In the Woods, and it's about these 2 detectives who are trying to solve a current murder. But then something really mysterious happened in the childhood of one of the detectives where like he was in the woods and he woke up like covered in blood, and the 2 friends he was with were disappeared, never heard from again. And he never like figured out what happened. It was like this whole thing. So you're sort of figuring out, is he going to figure that out? And also this current thing. So that's book 1. Every other book in the series takes somebody who's like a minor character, and then it's about them. So it like changes point of view. So it's called the Dublin Murder Squad because it's all usually around detectives that are all working at this place but working in Dublin. But you're seeing like different backstories and different histories and stuff. And that's just like super versus a lot of, you know, murder mystery kind of thriller series where like you have one detective or captain and like they're solving everything every time.
Right.
So that's a fun one. But again, those are much darker. The Thursday Murder's like cozy.
Okay.
What else do I recommend? Do I recommend any books that aren't full of murder? Interesting. Which is funny because like I don't actually read that many thrillers. Yeah, I think, you know, to go back to your original question of like, what am I always recommending? I usually want to talk to the person first and see what they're into. So it really changes a lot because I want to cater it to have the best possible chance of giving somebody something they really want to read, not just like top of mind, you know?
Yeah. So I'm curious if you've ever read the Thursday Next series by Jasper Fforde.
No.
Which is one of my top recommendations to people who are readers. So Jasper Fforde does incredible world building.
Okay.
It is kind of parallel universe where there are time police who manage people who are abusing time travel.
Love it.
There are book police who solve crimes in and out of book world. So the Thursday Next is a member of the book police, and she is the daughter of a time policeman who has gotten lost in time.
I'm adding them to my Goodreads, and literally I opened a browser, I've added them. Yeah. So the first one is The Eyre Affair.
The Eyre Affair.
Eyre Affair.
Because the original manuscript of Jane Eyre gets stolen.
Did I just mispronounce Eyre as in Jane Eyre on a podcast where I'm talking about books? Listen. That's upsetting. But I gotta be honest, have I read Jane Eyre? Ooh, probably. You know what? I'm not
an Austen girl.
I'm not a Bronte Austen. Yeah. And my caveat though is, and this is where it's a pulling of a threader of a swed. Threader of a swed? You got it.
Sweater, a thread of a sweat. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up in the 80s, 90s, I feel like I'm still this person. I like to be, different. I like to be a weirdo.
Yeah.
And so part of me not really getting into Austen and the Brontes is I don't know if I wouldn't have liked them if I read them when I was younger, or if I wasn't going to read them because that's what girls were reading and I didn't want to do what girls did. Not that there's anything bad with being girl, obviously, but because I didn't want to be boxed into these things.
Yeah.
And so I think I've read some of them now, but they don't hit with me the same way. And like, I can't tell if I really don't enjoy them because I don't, or if I've literally like partitioned it in such a way that I like refuse to like a thing that's I'm supposed to like because I'm a girl. You know what I mean?
I think you're going to love the Eyre Affair. I had not read Jane Eyre or even seen any adaptations when I read it.
Okay.
So there were some things that I didn't, because part of the world building is if the original manuscript is changed, it changes all copies of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And also the enemy, the big bad in all of his books is Jeff Bezos. But 20 years ago, like he saw where Amazon was going with electronic books before anyone. So I think you're really going to enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you anything else.
I don't like spoilers. I don't like them at all. So yeah. And it's fantasy, right? Fantasy.
Yeah.
Science fiction kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. I like fantasy a lot too.
But it takes place in like Crowley, England.
Okay. Nice. I'm excited. I haven't heard of them. So.
Oh my gosh. It's the Thursday Next series is fabulous. And I found it I read them when I was reading just like tons of books, and I found he is rewarding readers.
Yeah.
For your time in books. He's fabulous.
Gotcha.
He has another book called Shades of Grey.
Mm-hmm.
And the second book is finally coming out. And that is about a world where, also fantasy, the hierarchy of the politics, the hierarchy of the society is based on what type of color blindness you have.
Oh, interesting.
And people aren't tested for color. They don't get the color blindness test until they're 16.
Mm-hmm.
So until you're 16, you live in a normal, all kids live together. Like segregation doesn't start until you know how colorblind you are.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Lovely. Beautiful. Okay. I did think of it because you had asked about like, what's a book you always recommend? I did forget when it comes to audiobooks. Because I think, we've already said this, but I will repeat it in case anybody wants to disagree with us because they're wrong. Audiobooks count as reading.
Yep.
Not everything works as an audiobook. Like the pacing sometimes doesn't work out. Maybe you don't jive with the person who's doing it. Like that's fine. It's not for you. But it counts. And I think there are some books that even work better as audiobooks. Mm-hmm. And so the one that I always recommend if somebody's like, I'm going on a road trip, what should I listen to? Is Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. And so who was the host of The Daily Show. And so he wrote his memoir and he's also a comedian. So it's very well performed. But the reason that I think listening to his book is so important is because I am a 42-year-old white woman. And if I'm going to read a book and hear it in my own voice, it's going to sound like a 42-year-old white woman, which Trevor Noah is not. And so having the book, he's a performer, he's a comedian, so he has a wonderful delivery, but he does such subtle things because he's got his accent, he's got his, family's accent, and there's all these subtle nuances of the difference in the South African accents that I could never create in my imagination.
Right.
And I feel like listening to his story told in his own voice makes me understand it and appreciate it in a new way. Because one of the things I love about books is like, Matt Damon, I don't know why. Remember on Facebook when you used to like go put a quote that you liked? That was a thing. Yeah. I had one in there, and I don't know when he said this, but Matt Damon said something about like the world would be a better place if everyone had like thick passports. And that resonated with me because I understood what he was saying, that like the more you can go and see, but like also not everybody has money to travel the world. Yeah. But you know what you can do? You can travel the world through books. And so by reading things about people who are different than you can have a greater appreciation and maybe break down some bigotry and some issues and some fear you have about different kinds of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's where audiobooks can come in very helpfully is a memoir, like Amy Poehler's book. I have listened to, I think 5 times.
Yeah.
I think I could just read it now by myself because I could probably hear it in her voice because I've listened to it so much. So I think any memoir probably going to be better as an audiobook if it's read by the author, of course. And then anything where it's like a really diverse story that's very different than your own experience. Usually, even if the author doesn't read it, they pick someone with a similar accent or who can do the different voices and different characters. And I think you can just appreciate it in a whole new way.
Yeah. I did go on a jag last year of listening to memoirs by comedians.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Rose Wilson has a wonderful one.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Scheer, who's the
Mm-hmm.
host of How Did This Get Made?
Right.
Who I have had on my podcast. He's very nice.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a really active fan of How Did This Get Made, to an embarrassing level, but Paul coming on my podcast was really neat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But in the audio version, occasionally there's an interstitial that is the clip from the How Did This Get Made live show.
Mm-hmm.
The first time he tells a story
Mm-hmm.
that then became a chapter in the book.
Oh, nice.
And so you hear because a lot of times when he's telling the story at a show, it's just like, oh, I just remembered this thing that happened. And then in the book, he really, really did some deep dives into like what really happened.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really clever way of making the audiobook extra special.
Yeah.
With those bonus clips.
Mm-hmm.
The audiobook I listen to the most now. For a while, I would go to sleep listening to Harry Potter.
Sure.
But I try not to. I haven't bought, J.K. Rowling.
Boo. Boo.
But a book that I love going to sleep to, but I listened to for the first time on a road trip was Steinbeck Travels with Charlie in Search of America.
Oh, okay.
It's his big road trip book.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in the 50s, and he's just driving across America with his dog. He's in his 60s. He's had a health scare. He's afraid of getting old. And so he's just like, I'm going to go see America. I haven't traveled. I haven't been with the real people. This is when he's a famous writer.
Sure.
And it's read by Lieutenant Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Sinise.
Gary Sinise. There we go. We got there.
So it's Gary Sinise. It's John Steinbeck.
Sounds great.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's him and his dog and his camper van driving across America before the interstates were built.
Nice.
So it's talks about going to potato farms in Maine that are farmed by Canadians. Like Canadian migrant workers come down to farm potatoes in Maine. And it's just like, potatoes from Maine, Canadian migrant farm workers, this is just nothing we hear about anymore.
Yeah.
And also cooking with asbestos lined foil pans.
Oh,
so there are definitely some things that are, are going to kill people in the future, but he doesn't know.
Right.
But it's a good road trip book. Mm-hmm. I think I was driving solo to New York and I asked for audiobook recommendations, and that was one that somebody recommended.
Nice.
And the other one a friend recommended that I want to get into the whole series, but I still have only listened to the first one. I think it's Max Gladstone. The Craft Sequence, 3 Parts Dead, is the first one I read.
Okay.
And it is about, it's fantasy. Mm-hmm. And it's about the witches and wizards who are the forensic accountants.
Love it.
So there's a bunch of gods. Mm-hmm. So it's a polytheistic world. And then every country has a god. And when you make a treaty with another country, you're trading your god's powers. So if our country has Ares, the god of war, well, we're going to trade some of his war power with the goddess of water in another country. So we have water. Oh. And they have war.
Nice.
And then we're going to trade over here for fire so that we have energy, but they also get war. Mm-hmm. And the treaties get out of sync. Mm-hmm. And there's been nefarious treaty making and accounting, and one of the gods, all of its powers get used at once and it dies.
Oh.
Through subterfuge.
Yeah.
And this is about the forensic accountant wizards and witches trying to find out which treaty was bad.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But they go into
Goodreads
nightclubs and it's a really fully built out world.
Gotcha. Cool.
And very good. It was a really good drive and listen.
Yeah.
So on my bookshop page, I have books that are recommended by listeners or books that are recommended by guests of Finding Favorites. And I also have books by authors that have been on the show.
Nice.
So that's where I track recommendations.
Very cool.
So how do you feel about, now you're a big proponent of libraries.
Yes.
But do you lend out your personal books, or do you recommend, and it's up to people to get their book where they get their book?
I do. And like some people who live in my house would say that I have a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am pretty diligent about not having too many books.
Yeah.
At this point in life, it's like I use the library for most of my reading because they're free and libraries are great. Like I walk in and it's like the 2 times in life that I like instantly take a breath and feel good is like when I step outside to go for a walk on a nice day, I'm like, ah, and when I walk in the library, it just brings me peace.
Yeah.
So mostly library for me. I'm happy to loan stuff out if, I'm recommending it to a person.
Yeah.
I think that is helpful. And actually, I have to get to work on it for this year for my birthday. My friends got me a embosser that is the logo for my podcast. So that I can go and like emboss my books so that it's like tagged that it is mine.
Yeah.
But like, I would rather give somebody a book. Like, it's not like I have first editions or anything. Like, paperbacks, hardback, whatever. I would probably loan the only books I might not loan would be like the copies of books from my childhood. Like I mentioned, like the Little House on the Prairie, all that. I'm like, get your own. You're not touching those.
Right.
But anything else I've got that's like a modern purchase, if I loaned it to somebody, if it didn't make its way back to me, like, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like, there's one book that didn't make its way back to me that I'm like glad about. Do you know House of Leaves by? Yeah, I loaned it to somebody and I didn't get it, and I've read it, and I was like, you know what? I don't need that in my house. I don't need that bad juju. Okay, that book will mess you up real bad.
I just sent a friend a meme, the friend who recommended House of Leaves to me 20 years ago, and it was, I think it was from the website Hard Knocks. It's just sort of like a heavy metal, The Onion.
Okay.
I'm going to find this. I got to find the image that I sent on WhatsApp because it was so perfect.
If you don't know that book, people, it is, oh God. It's a book. It's like a book in a book in a book. It's like a nesting doll of books.
Yeah.
Where the author, there's like an author in the book who isn't the author who wrote the actual book, who like thinks he's going mad and is like journaling things, and like the inside of his house is changing and becomes tunnels, and like it's like a mixed media situation where like some parts of the book you get to it and you have to like spin the book around in a circle because it's like winding around, and the guy it's like he's writing this book after finding journals of the person who went mad, but he's also going mad, and like there are footnotes that will literally be, you start reading the footnote and it's like 6 pages long. And then you have to go back because like the tunnels are in the book, but the tunnels are within yourself. Ooh, like it's messed up, man.
Okay, so this, I can't share my screen.
Okay.
But this is from the Hard Times. Opinion. House of Leaves is just infinite jest for spooky people.
It's a hot take. I'm not mad at it. Yeah.
Yeah. When he recommended, this is my dear friend Ronnie, recommended this book to me. And I got it, and then I got on the bus. I got on the Milwaukee Avenue bus, sit down, and the people behind me are saying, like, one person is explaining to the other the book House of Leaves. What's like a book within a book? And then you have these, and I was just like, this book that's in my hands, it was such a hot topic for a while.
Yeah, it was a rule breaker in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I didn't finish it. I also didn't finish Infinite Jest. I'm the only person in my family that didn't finish it.
House of Leaves or Infinite Jest?
Infinite Jest.
Oh, I haven't read it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I did read House of Leaves though.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have I feel like shorter books from both of them. And whatever. They were not for me. Like I didn't have Infinite Jest and House of Leaves. Neither was for me. They have left my house now many years ago, and in a free box, like, or I stocked a free library somewhere. My mom will, in her efforts of Swedish death cleaning, of trying to get things out of the house so we don't have to deal with them when they pass. She doesn't have a physical map, but she has a map in her head of all the free little libraries in my hometown. So she'll fill up a box of books in the car and then drive and restock little free libraries.
Nice.
Yeah.
You brought up a good book topic though, which is not finishing books.
Mm-hmm.
I think earlier in life, I was more of a completist, where if I opened it, I was going to finish it. But I'm here to tell you, if you need me to, everybody, you don't have to finish a book. You don't have to. But like we said earlier, there's a lot of books, and if it's not vibing with you, that is okay. You can put it down, and you don't have to finish it, and that's fine. And I like to distinguish between just like anything. Like if somebody wrote a book and they published it and it made its way to me, that's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah.
Good job for them. Now, there are books that aren't great, just like TV show, movies, whatever. But I like to distinguish between a bad book and a book that was not for me. Mm-hmm. So like you just said, you're not saying House of Leaves is a bad book. It just wasn't for you. And not everything is going to be for everybody. And that is okay. So if you happen to get a book, and even if it's well recommended by people you admire, and you're like, I'm really not liking this. I don't have a hard rule of page numbers. It's I'd probably give it, maybe 50 pages. I don't think I'd quit after 10. Yeah. But to me, I can tell when I go to sit down to read, if I'm if there's a resignation versus I'm excited.
Yeah.
And some topics you have to push past, the book I said I read for that public library. I don't know if I would have read the whole thing if it wasn't for a book club because I wasn't enjoying it. Mm-hmm. But it's not supposed to be enjoyable to read about women who were oppressed in the 1400s. It's not going to be a fun romp.
Yeah.
So sometimes you take the book medicine because you want to learn and you're pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want something that's just, a cheesy delight. And that is okay.
Yeah. Do you have, we talked about where you get book ideas and recommendations from. Do you have someone that you you really trust to give you recommendations?
I've got a lot of people.
You got a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10 of extrovert, 22. So I have a wide network of friends from all over the place that I will turn to. And now at this point, it's I have my Goodreads shelves that have them all listed. I would say that there's some fun book clubs you can check out. So I haven't read a lot of them, but Good Morning America does a book club. Mm-hmm. And I've actually had one of the authors, Angie Kim, who wrote a book called Happiness Falls. I had her on my podcast. She was one of my interviews, which was cool. So if you're I don't even know where to start, you can try one of those.
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon's book club, I find, has got some fun ones in there. Yeah. So that's another place you could sort of check a few of those out. You could find me on social media and tell me what you like to read, and I will recommend the book. And if you read it, and then if you tell me that you liked it, you will have made at least my day, if not my week. Because for a reader to recommend a book to someone that you love, that then they love it too, is the pinnacle of I'm done for the day. I've achieved enough.
Yeah.
The blue ribbon for me. Amazing. I love it.
Nice. And do you have young readers in your life?
I would say I have a reluctant young reader in my life who reads, and I have had some success in giving them things to read, not a lot. And I am excited about sharing some books with I have a niece who is about to turn 5. Okay. And so there's some books that I've gotten her that she really likes that again, that makes the heart sing. I read more YA than not used to. When I was a young adult, I read it. And then there was a period of time because I also want to say any kind of book can be for any kind of person. I think people build up stuff in their head. I was talking, to somebody the other day who I was only reading nonfiction because I thought I should only read nonfiction. And then I started reading fiction. And and I don't think that's uncommon to be I can take anything and make it a to-do list and suck the fun right out of it. Mm-hmm. That's a special skill I have to include reading. I'll get behind in my book reviews and I'm oh, I'm behind. My husband's are you behind? I'm yes, I'm behind in my pretend homework. Leave me alone. I have made it a thing to do. But I want to say too that for a long time, I think I wasn't reading YA because I wrongfully was but I'm not a young adult. I'm an adult. So that's not for me. Books are for everybody. Watch whatever TV show, whatever thing you like, whatever you're interested in. Feel empowered by the power vested in me by literally nothing. If it doesn't hurt anybody and you like it, read what you want to read.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, you know what, I love children's literature. And I'm going to exclusively, as like a 60-year-old man, read children's literature. And it makes me happy. Great. Whatever.
Yeah.
Do it.
Love it. Ashlie, this has been such a fun way to start the weekend.
Yay.
Do you have anything? Well, you have a whole podcast about books, so clearly you have more to say.
Sure.
But is there anything I haven't asked you today that you would feel bummed not to have gotten to say on this episode of Finding Favorites?
What I know is going to happen is we're going to get off of this and I'm going to come up with at least 2 to 7 things.
Yeah.
Right now, I'll do one more plug for an episode of my podcast that's just if you're like, okay, you've said some things that are interesting, but like I still need more help in like what, like I want to read more. I have an episode that's literally called like the 6 tips to read more books. And I've already talked about, I think one of them was to read multiple books at a time. But if you'd like some more ideas, you should check that out because I've talked to a couple people who said they've listened to it multiple times or they've recommended it to people because it was helpful in trying to do it. Because it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to make time to do things. You know, people are busy and a lot of things are pulling our attention. Like we talked about phones and pets and human beings and jobs. Yeah. But it is an important pursuit. And I think you can improve your life and enjoy your life more by spending time with a good book. And I'm here to help you if you want help with it.
Great. And where can people find you on Goodreads? Where can they find your podcast? Where can they find you on the internet?
Finding people on Goodreads is like, they do not make it easy to find people. I think my name, I mean, it's at, I think it says Cheerbrarian on there. I don't even know how to tell you how to find it. You literally have to send people like a direct link and like information about your blood type for them to find it. Right. But I'm on the gram. I'm on the threads. I'm reluctantly on TikTok. I don't enjoy it. I don't feel like I know what I'm doing there. But all those places you can find me at Cheerbrarian. You can go, I have a website, cheerbrarian.com, which will show you where to find the podcast is on all the podcast places,
Great. And there's a link to Goodreads on cheerbrarian.com.
Boom. Look at that. Sure, I guess there is. Look at me. And I have a list of, if you're curious on what kind of books I recommend, there's a tab on my website called Unrequired Reading. Because the point is like, it's not required, right? I'm not telling you have to. So there's a tab, Unrequired Reading. And if you click through for every episode, it'll tell you what books were recommended.
Great. Outstanding. Well, Ashlie, thank you so much for joining me today. For folks listening to Finding Favorites for the first time, you can find and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Please rate and review 5 stars, subscribe, set it to auto download. Finding Favorites is mixed and edited by Rob Abrazado. Thank you, Rob. And you can find me sometimes on Instagram, Finding Faves Pod, FAVS Pod. Well, Ashlie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.